week, something big could be about to happen, but we don't know what it is yet. The United States just called almost every single senior military official for an urgent, undisclosed meeting. The White House is preparing for mass firings as the government barrels towards a shutdown. Israel just had mass walkouts at their speech at the UN summit in New York. Jimmy Kimmel is back, and he's made it very clear that he will not be silenced. We got the first country in history to appoint an A.i minister in the government. And as you can see, I am not at the capital's empire right now. So, got a bit of explaining to do. But no matter where I am, the party never stops. So, let's stop the yapping and let's get Okay, so before we begin, quick one from me. This is the reason we skipped Wednesday's episode. I know you were crying in bed, tearing, where is the news? But just know it's for a good cause. It's not because I don't love you. In fact, nay, it's the opposite. I am out here on a conquest. I am conquering new land, new territory for the Empire. It is a brand new style of video, which we're testing out, and I think you guys are gonna love it, but I can't say much more. But point is, should be regular scheduling from now on. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Today was a wild one to get out, but let's literally stop the yapping to the video. Okay, I think we gotta start the news with this one. Something big is about to happen in the United States, but I don't really know if we know what it is yet. So the Washington Post reported yesterday that Pete Hegseth, the new US Secretary of War, it's a crazy title, has just ordered a rare, urgent meeting of almost every single senior military US official from around the world. Now, the reports state that a meeting of this size and its urgency is not only rare, it might just be unprecedented, the likes of which we have never seen before. Now, what they will be discussing, or why they are all being called to this location in Virginia, is unknown. In fact, reports say that not even the senior military officials know why they are being called there. Only a very few that are really close to Pete Hegseth. But we do have some theories, all varying in credibility, from mass firings to an announcement of a new government military campaign. But no matter what it is, all I guess you gotta think about is it's gotta be big enough to justify the very clear security risk of bringing all of these military officials to one place at one time. That's pretty crazy. And not only that, but they're also publicizing it. Like, this is everywhere right now. In fact, it's even being referred to online as the general Squid Games because of the potential mass firings. And then just to make the situation even more ominous, the deputy director of the FBI just simply tweeted, "God bless America and all those who defend her." A little context, please. And then, because of all of this, a quote started going viral online, spreading this claim that NATO has officially declared war on Russia. I mean, look at this post, for example, from Drama Alert, almost 1 million views. War has been declared by NATO on Russia, according to Russia's Foreign Minister, Lavrov. Pray it's not true. Well, I can confirm it is absolutely not true. Calm down. Now, Russia's foreign minister said that NATO and Europe have essentially declared war on Russia through Ukraine. Something which, if you're a regular of the channel, you'll know that they say in different forms a lot over the last few years. But it does not mean what the pictures suggest, which is World War III, war, or nukes going off in the background. So it's not that. But there are also other things which are actually true, which are wild. Because this comes at a time when the US is facing a government shutdown next week. About the 30th is the deadline. And this is after a standoff with congressional Democrats over federal funding. I mean, we've been here before. But this time, it's a little bit different because we're hearing now from the White House that they are preparing for mass firings if this happens. Now, we don't know if this is just a threat, or whether they're actually going to go ahead with this, but it's pretty serious. So yeah, it feels like something big is going to be happening next week. It's going to be a busy one, so make sure you subscribe to the channel to know what it is, and so you don't believe that it's World War III. But I also might remind you that, government shutdowns, we've been here before, and every single time they bring it right to the deadline, and then they say, oh no, we figured out a deal. So I wouldn't be too scared, but there's always a first. As always, I'll keep you guys updated on that situation, but for now, moving on. Also, something genuinely major was announced yesterday, and I can't believe it's actually happening. Every single working adult in the UK will be required to have a new government-issued digital ID. And you might ask why? Well, illegal immigration is apparently the reason. Now, in this announcement, which was made by Prime Minister Keir Starmer today, anyone who wants to work in the UK will have to have a digital ID. It's as simple as that. In fact, this was his quote.
Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Now, does that mean you will get fired from your job? You will lose your job if you refuse to have one of these? I can't say for sure, but he does make it very clear. It is mandatory. If you want a job, you have to have one. So it might be like one of them COVID times again. Now, this is all said to help tackle illegal immigration because those digital IDs with work, they would then be automatically checked against a central database to see if you are legally allowed to work in the UK or not. Keir Starmer said that this will significantly help the UK's small boat crisis, and it will discourage people coming over because they believe that they are able to work and get a job illegally. But after the digital IDs, according to Keir Starmer, not anymore. It's also worth noting that this has been a talking point in the UK for quite a few years, but it has never been mandated by a previous government. One, because of massive public hesitancy around digital IDs, but also because there are a lot of questions around how effective it would be in tackling illegal immigration in the first place. But there are also major concerns around civil liberties, privacy, freaking cyber attacks. And then the big question on top of that is, if this doesn't help tackle the small boat crisis, will it be abolished? And if not, why? Because if it hasn't helped the problem that it was intended to help, why is it still around? Because the government has a very common tendency to implement these things and for a specific purpose and never retract them, just keep them around. But what do you guys think? Are you in favor of digital IDs to solve this problem or not? Let me know in the comments. Moving on. But talking about the UK moving into the digital realm, there is one country this week that has gone much further. Also this week, you guys gotta know about this because it's pretty big. The world's first ever A.I minister was introduced in Parliament. You are living through history. And yes, it is exactly as wild as it sounds. Albania this week became the first country in history to give artificial intelligence an official capacity to govern. Oh yeah. Its name is Diella, and during her, I guess, a 3-minute debut to address in Parliament, she said that she was hurt that people labeled her as unconstitutional, and yes, we're naming it her, and said, quote, "Let me remind you, the real danger to the Constitution has never been machines, but human decisions made by those in power." And you know what, to be fair, before you start yapping in the comments, she's kind of got a point. Because this AI's role as minister is going to be overseeing all government contracts and tender. And the idea is that by doing this, it will massively reduce corruption. Why, you ask? Because here's a question. How do you lobby an AI? They are world-renowned for being goody two-shoes. You ever try to get ChatGPT to say something sus? Yeah, you failed. Diella said that she has no ambitions or personal interests, and she has nothing to gain from stealing money for herself, so why would she, unlike the humans out here? And like, when you put it like that, low-key, it kind of makes sense because, you know, the robots, they have no wants, they have no needs, they don't need massages. If you... Oh, Lord. Where are the files? And the thing is that this isn't brand new because many people have spoken about a future where AI runs and oversees politicians for this exact reason. But, you know, there is a little bit of a caveat because with the potential benefits where a government has no ego, no bias, no prejudice, no emotion, it only works on logic, you see, that seems pretty good. It also does come with a reminder that some of those emotions are empathy, kindness, mercy. Yeah, you're gonna want that when the AI overlords are gratatas. But here's one of the craziest things, and like, I kind of thought about it when I was researching this subject. It's kind of like a dark paradox when it comes to AI being in government and running us. For AI, particularly in government, to one day have the capability to destroy humanity, it has to first make humanity's life so much better that we deliberately deploy it everywhere and we can't live without it, because if we do, we live better. But then in doing that, we put it in a position to destroy our lives. So if you think about it, the only way that AI destroys us is if Diella actually does amazing and reduces corruption. Yeah, you see, a little bit of a paradox. But anyway, before we destroy each other's brains, what do you think? Do you think that a government with AI oversight would be good or bad? It's a conflicting one. Next. Also this week, and it only took a week, Jimmy Kimmel has returned, and he delivered what is being described as, quote, the most anticipated monologue in late night history. And I think, I'm a bit too young to understand the hype around late night TV, but I think that's saying a lot because it's been around and it's had some pretty big moments. I guess it is also fair to say because a lot of people wanted to know what he was gonna say about the whole situation since he hadn't commented about it publicly at all until now. Now, his monologue actually broke some records. It got 20 million views in just a few days, and that's just on his YouTube. So, if anyone was trying to silence him, boy, did it backfire because late night shows were just becoming irrelevant, and now they're back in it. Now, he started with a huge standing ovation from the crowd as he walked in, and the first thing he said was, it's pretty good.
Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted.
And it continued by kind of, I guess, setting the record straight. He said that it was never his intention to make light of a murder of a young man, and he seemed to get pretty emotional as he said this.
You understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
He said, I don't think that the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed that violence was a solution, and it isn't ever. He also praised Erica Kirk for saying that she forgives the shooter at Charlie's memorial.
She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. Yeah. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that.
He also thanked people who supported him throughout the whole situation, including figures from both sides of the political aisle. He then slammed ABC affiliates who said that they are not airing the show again. He said, that's not legal, it's not American, in fact, it's un-American. And then he addressed President Trump.
He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show. That backfired bigly.
And here's the thing, Jimmy Kimmel has made it pretty clear that he is not backing down and he won't be censored because he dropped this absolute bombshell roast. Did Alex play the clip?
He might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now.
Now, Trump has clapped back against this, of course, on Truth Social, and he said, I cannot believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. He questioned why would they put someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage. Anyway, if you want to read the full thing, pause here. But here's the craziest twist for me personally in this whole situation. So last week we spoke about how everyone was boycotting Disney. Well, guess what? At the same time all of this was going down, Disney increased their fees on their subscription by $2. So I don't know if this is some sort of planned thing. As soon as people start canceling, they're just like, all right, we'll raise the money for the people that are going to stick around. And so by canceling their subscriptions, they're not even making Disney pay. They're making the people who are pay more. Oh, crazy. Moving on. Also this week, I imagine you heard, but the UN summit happened, and boy, Trump, I think, has labeled this as a disaster. In fact, he labeled this as a triple sabotage when he was there, and he is ordering an investigation. This is because the escalator abruptly stopped as he was getting on, and this does have some evidence for being pre-planned, but we'll get to that. There were also audio issues when he was giving his speech, and then also the teleprompter stopped working, which he blamed the UN for since they were the ones hosting it. He said that him and his wife could have been severely injured as a result of this escalator stopping, but he didn't because they're in good shape. Now, Caroline Leavitt said that if someone intentionally stopped this escalator, they will be fired and investigated immediately. And you know when I said there are potentially some truth truth to Trump's concerns? Well, here's what it is, because a couple of days before the UN, there were reports that the UN were actually joking about stopping the escalator when he got on. So the coincidence seems pretty insane. Now, the UN has responded. They've straight up denied it. They said that the incident was caused by one of Trump's teams or a videographer likely triggering a safety mechanism inadvertently. And then in terms of the teleprompter, the UN says that the White House were the ones that were in control of that. Now, Trump said in his UN speech, which honestly has been pretty massive. He said that he ended 7 wars and never received a phone call from the UN.
I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help.
The 2 things that he did get from the UN, though, was a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much.
Trump asked, what is even the purpose of the United Nations? It has such a tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that.
What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential.
Which, I have to point this out. So, when he last did his UN speech, literally the crowd laughed. And Alex, you can play the clip if you want.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course.
This time, he has come back and he is absolutely scorched earth. The whole thing in front of the UN says, screw you guys. It's the first time they laughed. Second time, they were absolutely silent. He said all the UN seemed to do is just write really strongly worded letters, and it's empty words, and empty words don't solve wars.
All they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war.
He then even said, your countries are going to hell. I told you, pretty massive stuff. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with what Trump said at the UN or not? Let me know in the comments. Moving on. Also, speaking about Trump, we have to talk about one more thing he did this week. He unveiled at the White House the Presidential Wall of Fame. And it all looks fine and normal, pretty nice, you know, golden frames and all of that, all the presidents signing the wall, until you get to Joe Biden. Instead, what should I even say? It's not even Joe Biden. It is a picture of an auto pen instead. I'm not gonna lie, he does do some funny shit. Now, for those who don't understand the reference, Trump has been claiming for a long time that Biden never made any of his own decisions. And that was because of his cognitive decline and the use of an auto pen to sign his documents and legislation. Now, that seems like some crazy conspiracy theory, the auto pen thing. It is actually real. Yes, it is real. Biden did use an auto pen, which I think initially he did decline, but it's not just Biden. I think the first person to use an auto pen was Barack Obama. So it's a fairly standard thing, and it's used to sign like small legislation, you know, because they're probably signing a lot all the time. Now, Trump himself, he refused to ever use an auto pen, and he cited it as a sign that Biden wasn't capable of approving his own legislation. In fact, back in June, he ordered an investigation into this, which Biden responded to at the time, saying that the claims were a distraction, ridiculous, and false, and that he always made his own decisions during his presidency. But yeah, pretty wild. But how about we move away from America for a second, you know? Moving on. Also, just to add to the geopolitical tension this week, it feels like it's been ramping up. Today, at the UN General Assembly, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to the podium to make his speech. But before he even began speaking, as you can see here, dozens of delegates from various countries, ranging in Africa, Middle East, Europe, they all started walking out of the venue in protest. Now, along with people walking out, there were also very loud applause, claps, cheers. However, a little caveat to that. After reviewing the footage, the applause and the claps doesn't seem to be coming from the main section. It comes from the gallery, as you can see from a video from a US correspondent at the scene. Now, those who sit in this gallery are usually just observers, maybe special guests invited by certain countries, or the media. Now, on this day in particular, reports state that they were apparently made up of guests mainly invited by by Israel, which I guess would explain why they were cheering so loudly. Now, that's not to say that there were no delegates from down below seen clapping or cheering. Obviously, it was mainly the Israeli delegation, but also the US and the UK. They remained and they never walked out. Now, Netanyahu's speech was long, very controversial. I won't get into it too much, but it was mainly around the finishing the job of eliminating Hamas. Another thing which I thought was actually kind of interesting was Netanyahu's strange route that he took with his jet to get to the UN summit in New York. Because as you can see here, it looks like a straight route, but remember, the earth is round, according to most people. But this route, actually, that he took added 663 kilometers to the length, which extended the journey by about 2 hours. So the big question is, why take that route and not just the regular one that most people would take? Now, the BBC report that there's been widespread claims online that this route was selected to avoid certain countries that might enforce the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant against Netanyahu for war crimes. Now, Netanyahu firmly denies these claims that that's why he took that route. But interestingly, those part of the ICC, which includes Spain, France, the UK, Ireland, were all avoided by his jet flying over them, flying over their territories. And that could be because they might be legally required to arrest Netanyahu and then surrender him to the court if he enters their territory. But again, that would be, I don't know. I can't see that happening. And then, to make things even crazier on top of this situation, as Netanyahu's speech was happening in New York, it was also blasted into Gaza through all of these loudspeakers which were stationed around the border. Now, rounding off his speech, Netanyahu then criticized the UK, Canada, Australia, France, all of their decisions to recognize Palestine as a state, calling the move sheer madness. Oh, and just you wait, because the geopolitical tensions don't end with this story. In fact, they're ramping up in the next one. Because we want to talk about this one. For any of you One Piece fans, you are going to love this. So, a flag from the anime show One Piece is now becoming a real-life symbol of Gen Z protests around the world. Yep, only in 2025. Now, as you probably have seen, multiple countries around the world have been rocked recently by youth-led protests. And now, the Jolly Roger pirate flag from the Japanese manga One Piece has largely become the face of these movements in countries like Indonesia, Nepal, where they literally overthrew the government, the Philippines, and it's even touching Europe now, France as well. Now, banners with these symbols are becoming pretty commonplace in crowds. It's been painted on the streets, it's been raised outside of people's homes. In Nepal, they even hung it on the golden gates of the parliament building while it was burning down. In fact, it's gotten to the point where some governments, like Indonesia, for example, have labeled it as a treasonous act. Damn, that is crazy. Now, one activist from Nepal said, "We wanted the movement to feel like a Gen Z movement, so the slogans and symbols used during the protests were linked with things that Gen Z youths could relate to." And here's the thing, it's not just because One Piece is popular, it's also because of the plot of the show. It revolves around a young group of individuals, and while they are, on the mission and searching for lost treasure, they are challenging oppressive leaders.
Your flag? Things get tough, we've still got your back. Fly that flag to send a message. If bad guys see that, it'll send a packet, I promise you. Messing with our friend means messing with us.
And I think this symbol in itself has become so effective because it transcends language. It transcends borders. It's kind of like the Kaby Lame effect, why he became so popular, because you don't need to know a specific language to get it. And now it's becoming this symbol where new generations, the next generation, are the ones that really are holding the governments to account, to stop things like corruption, censorship, and neglect. And it's just so insane that this is become the symbol, and I do believe that Nepal were the ones who started it. And so the question is, there are a lot more Gen Z protests planned around the world. So the question is this symbol really going to take off, and are we going to be seeing more of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but moving on. Also, I don't know how this is even possible, but over the weekend, a 13-year-old boy from Afghanistan snuck into the wheel well of a commercial airplane on a flight from Kabul to Delhi, India. And here's the thing, somehow, after over an hour-and-a-half flight, thousands of feet in the air, spanning over 1,000 kilometers, bro made it to the other side, the plane landed, and he was unharmed Totally. In fact, Indian authorities, once he got to the other side, said that he managed to sneak past security at the airport, he followed a group of passengers, and then he climbed into the rear landing gear compartment of the aircraft. And it's so crazy because think about when a freaking plane comes down, they open that shit. How he didn't fall out is pretty wild. They said they only realized that he was there after they landed, and they found him just wandering around, kind of clueless, on the runway. And if that wasn't wild enough, they found one item on him after this situation, and it was a speaker. Bro was bumping tunes. Oh, it's crazy. And also, when they asked why he even did it, he said that he was just curious and he wanted to see Iran. Obviously, he didn't end up in Iran. He ended up in India. And that was because he got on the wrong flight. Because if you're not going through the gate, how do you know which flight is going where? Kind of makes sense. And after all of that, he was deported straight back to Afghanistan the same day, actually. Quick. Jeez. Oh, man, this has been a crazy week. Moving on. And then, lastly, TikTok is now officially saved. This should be the last time we say it's saved, or it's not saved. Because Trump signed an executive order yesterday transferring TikTok to American owners. Or at least a part or version of TikTok. It's very confusing, but let's try and explain this. Because in this new American spin-off version of TikTok, yes, it's its own American company, America will now own between 65 and 80% of it. ByteDance will only hold a minority, like 20%, and then obviously they'll still own the main TikTok. But that also gives America the full control over what they do with the app now. So they can control the algorithm, they can control the data which it's trained on. And apparently Trump said that he spoke with President Xi, and Xi gave him the all clear. Now we don't know how much they paid to be able to do this, but JD Vance said that the new company or the deal was valued around $14 billion. The White House confirmed that the US data from the app will not be accessible by Chinese officials or TikTok owners at ByteDance. Then also the American company Oracle, they'll be the leading American investors, and they will be the ones responsible for data storage, algorithm oversight, and even running operations under US jurisdiction. Now, we don't know yet if this will be a separate app. It depends on what Oracle does once they look at it to see if there's a security concern of having the same app. Yes, the algorithm will only be trained on US data, but the posts that you post on there, it will be able to be seen by people in Europe. Europe can see the Americans, Americans can see Europe, for example. It'll all be still global. But I imagine there will be some changes to the feel of the app, what videos you get served. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But the main point is that TikTok is not going anywhere, and so the deal is actually being done. Something that, there's many points we never thought would actually happen. But I think that is a wrap. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Gosh, this is so dodgy. I've literally got a suitcase, a pillow, a shoebox, and then the laptop stacked on top of it.